Hello everyone, Ewan from WhatCulture Gaming here, and if you've been keeping up with the channel, you'll probably be aware that I'm a teeny tiny bit excited for Batman Arkham. After years of waiting, another game is now just around the corner. The next title will be developed by Warner Bros. Montreal, the team that previously helmed the series' criminally underrated 2013 prequel Batman Arkham Origins, and will supposedly focus on the Court of Owls. But seeing as how the Court are a relatively new creation, I thought I'd make the leap from WhatCulture Comics, pluggity-plug, plug, and clue in all of yous on gaming what they're all about. So, from their comic book origins to their potential history in the Arkhamverse, here's everything Batman Arkham fans need to know about the Court of Owls. Number 10. They were introduced during the New 52. Scott Snyder was handed the keys to the main Batman comic off the back of a highly successful stint on Detective Comics in 2011, and quickly made a mark on the character. Snyder's Batman, brought to life by artist Greg Capullo, was drenched in horror and became a true light in the dark, fighting against some of the most disturbing and sinister forces in Gotham City. This was all realized during the duo's first arc on the series, which introduced the Court of Owls. Playing to themes Snyder established in the Black Mirror and Gates of Gotham, the Court were another secretive organization that had existed in Gotham City for hundreds of years, operating in the shadows to influence the public and consolidate their own position in Gotham society at any cost. They boast their own army of assassins called Talons, and even have their own nursery rhyme for added creepy effect. Beware the Court of Owls that watches all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadowed perch behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth, they watch you in your bed. Speak not a whispered word about them, or they'll send the Talon for your head. Regardless of the lore and backstory, fans will probably find it curious why it took them so long to get Batman's attention. The answer is fairly simple. Because they wanted to. The Court target Wayne after he decides to implement new developments and programs to transform Gotham for the better, as it threatened their own position. Could a similar plotline inspire their involvement in the next Batman game? Only time will tell. Number 9. They've been around for centuries. Despite only being introduced in 2011, the Court of Owls have actually been around in Gotham since the city's founding during colonial times. They practically built the city over years of development and political maneuvering, ranging from its trademark Gothic architecture to its political class and criminal underworld. Naturally, this has meant they've accrued some incredibly tall tales, with the organization having even gone toe-to-toe with Jonah Hex in the pages of All-Star Western, set towards the tail end of the 19th century. While the Arkham games have certainly broached DC's past on occasion, such as with Wonder City in Batman Arkham City, the Court encourages a more detailed exploration of Gotham's history. Could this mean flashbacks, maybe even a little nod towards Hex's coming together with the organization alongside Amadeus Arkham, a figure of key importance in the series itself? It's certainly possible. Making matters even more exciting is the fact that Origins also had a side mission all about Cyrus Pinckney, a renowned architect who faked his death with the assistance of Amadeus Arkham during the 1800s. Could it be possible some of his buildings were designed with the Court in mind? Don't rule it out just yet. Number 8. Their assassins are known as Talons. Having influence and power is one thing, but it's impossible to maintain without security. The Court, a cabal comprised of Gotham's oldest families, found a twisted solution to this quandary by recruiting their own assassins, which, keeping to theatrics, they dubbed Talons. Now, on the surface, there's nothing all that twisted about assassins. They're at least relatively tame as far as Gotham's concerned, but the Court felt the need to put their own spin on the profession. Rather than simply recruit from the most sinister and indeed skilled figures across the world, like, say, the League of Assassins would, they instead looked at child circus performers and raised them to be their own trained killers. These Talons would then be deployed to assassinate key persons who threaten to upset the Court's hold over Gotham. They remain in deep sleep until called upon by the Society's senior figures, and are resurrected periodically for centuries thereafter. One particular Talon, Uriah Boone, was even resurrected to fight Batman after first being active during the 1600s. Given leaked concept art for the next Arkham game, and with the Court clearly set to feature either way, players should expect Talons to be a major test come release. Number 7. They've experimented with genetics. Illustrating the Court's horror factor potentially even better than the Talons themselves are their genetic experiments, which have given birth to actual owl-human hybrids. These animal-human monstrosities differ from the rest of the Court in that they A. aren't normal humans who hail from Gotham's elite, and B. haven't been plucked from the city's seemingly endless supply of local circuses. They have distorted faces and talons, and cut a menacing figure all around. The Arkham games love a good enemy type, and it would be wise to expect these owl-human things will appear as grunts for the Dark Knight to face in one of the next title's presumably many free-flow segments. Number 6. They have a huge connection to Dick Grayson. The first Robin, Dick Grayson, came from a family of trapeze artists lovingly dubbed the Flying Graysons. The group performed with Haley's Circus, a traveling show that came to Gotham one fateful evening and left with 3 performers less. Dick came to Batman after his parents were murdered in the middle of a routine, and Bruce Wayne, seeing himself in the surviving Grayson, decided to take him in as his ward. It was a tragic coincidence that their paths ever crossed, or at least it was, until the Court of Owls storyline revealed more about Grayson's past. In one of comics' great coincidences, the Court themselves have a secret weapon called the Grey Sun, and that Grey Sun just so happens to be Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, who the Court see as a potential Talon. Dick eventually joins them as a Talon and works as a double agent. Depending on when the next Arkham game is set, it might be possible we see this arc play out in one of either 2 forms, in a prequel where he's still Robin, or in a sequel to Arkham Knight where he's trying to carry on Batman's legacy. Number 5. They feel threatened by Batman's legend. The Court of Owls crash into Batman's world as a challenge not just to his authority, but to his legend. It's a through line during Snyder and Capello's Court of Owls, and it's a fascinating concept to explore. After all, the Dark Knight is synonymous with Gotham, but what if there was a competing legend long before him, and one that could threaten to survive Batman's altogether if he isn't careful? The Arkham games have really lent into the idea of the Caped Crusader as a symbol, but never to the extent of exploring his relationship with Gotham and how the two are intrinsically linked. Snyder and Capello's work, meanwhile, centers the story around Gotham itself, and reminds the reader that Batman is merely just another figure who's arrived at a certain point in the city's monolithic history. The presence of the Owl speaks to a version of the city that is self-sustaining, sprawling, and ominous. All too often we tend to see Batman as the only figure who can capably navigate the city's expanse in a confident, unwavering manner. The Court throws that version of the character completely out the window by illustrating that he doesn't know everything and that there are still forces that can evade the Dark Knight's watchful eye. Number 4. They eventually go international. Although the Court were introduced as a faction unique to Gotham, later stories have positioned them in an international context, working as a Parliament of Owls as opposed to the Court they were once known as. As was revealed in the DC Rebirth Nightwing series, the Court actually have branches all over the world, gaining influence and power to suit their own means. The decision to go global does detract somewhat from the Court's ties to Gotham, but equally, it does make a little sense that a group with that many resources would want to expand at some point or another. As for the Arkhamverse itself, could this be a way for WB to branch out into other aspects of the DC universe? Rocksteady and Montreal have been teasing a world outside of Gotham since Arkham Asylum released in 2009, and it makes sense to explore it at some point or another. For now though, it would be best to assume that the Court will remain a local operation in the next Arkham title. It's their first adventure after all. Expansion can come later. Number 3, they have ties to the dark multiverse. The Court of Owls have a sinister purpose, but what if their truer, more secretive purpose was actually even more sinister than that? A couple of years after they departed the main Batman title, Snyder and Capello embarked on another adventure altogether in Dark Knight Metal, a comic that can only be described as bonkers, but also in the best way imaginable. The comic pitted the Dark Knight and DC's heroes against a newly conceived dark multiverse, a parallel series of alternate realities that ran opposite DC's conventional multiverse. The main difference, though, is that every alternate reality featured a world engulfed by horrifying versions of DC's traditionally heroic protagonists, with Batman at its center. Eventually, said evil Batmen, led by Judge Death lookalike the Batman Who Laughs, invade the main DC reality and wreak havoc, and it turns out the Court were involved from the start. Metal introduced a new revelation that the Court secretly worshipped the Bat God known as Barbatos, and their end goal was to infect someone from the House of Wayne with dark multiverse material so that they could rule alongside them. They get killed by the Batman Who Laughs' Robins for their troubles shortly thereafter, thus heralding the end of their obsession with Batman, but their brief cameo in the comic recontextualizes their entire purpose thereafter. The Arkham series has thus far strayed away from DC's more cosmic elements, but they've embraced the supernatural right from the off. Could now be the time for Barbatos to enter too? Only time will tell. Number 2, they've actually been in the Arkhamverse for years. The Arkham series loves a good Easter egg, and Arkham Origins was no different. The game included a truckload of references to the wider DC universe throughout the open world, and many more that related to Batman's history specifically. Perhaps surprisingly, given the game released only a couple of years after the Court were first introduced, Origins also included 2 nods towards them in a select few locations. First, a pair of statues perched atop the Royal Hotel that resemble the group's Talons, and second, an old book that contains the Court's famous rhyme, located at Gotham Bridge. It was always possible that WB could pursue the Court as antagonists for their next title after these Easter eggs were uncovered, reported, but it's been a long time coming. No further nods came in Arkham Knight though, which could potentially lend weight to the theory that WB's next back title will be a prequel like Origins. And number 1, Scott Snyder may be involved in the next Arkham game. Just as Rocksteady took on Paul Dini to helm the story for both Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, might it be possible that WB Montreal have done the same with a different writer for the next project? Arkham Origins still boasts the series' best story, which was written by Corey May, Duma Wenshu, and Ryan Galletta, but it's unlikely all 3 will return for a follow-up. However, with the court set to take a key role in the next game, it may just be the case that Montreal take a leaf out of Rocksteady's book and recruit someone more familiar with the source material to helm their next story. Although Montreal's devs had previously spilled the beans that the next Arkham game would feature the court months ago, Scott Snyder followed up the studio's Batman Day tease with a now deleted tweet of his own, capped off with the not-so-subtle hashtag Beware the Court of Owls. This after retweeting an IGN writer based on the studio's aforementioned tease. Now, it's common courtesy to keep a comic creator in the loop when you're using their creation in a different medium, but one does wonder if Snyder has been consulting on the next Arkham game story too. It would certainly lend another level of authenticity to the title, and it's nothing less than what the creator deserves after leaving such a sizable impact on Batman this last decade. Either way, expect an announcement soon. If not at New York Comic Con, then certainly before the end of the year. And that was our list. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you fancy seeing more stuff like this, why not give WhatCulture Comics a chance as well? It has me, Josh, me, Jules, me, and well, it's just a great time all around. Either way, be sure to like and subscribe to WhatCulture Gaming, find me on Twitter at @RuinsThings, and stay peeled for more Arkham announcements in the weeks to come. Until next time, however, bye!